Hey everyone, welcome to the channel, The Football Expert, and we are back here with another video. Notre Dame and Penn State facing off in the Orange Bowl. We got the 6 seed and we got the 7 seed. Both beat their opponents, Boise State, Georgia, respectively, in the quarterfinals, along with SMU and Indiana in the first round with the first round games at college campuses. These two teams are massive players in the northern part of this country, especially for recruiting grounds. This game's going to mean a lot. Notre Dame could say they've beaten Penn State. They've made a national championship. Penn State can say the same thing. They've beaten Notre Dame, made a national championship. And you got a lot to prove here. A lot's on the line, especially if you're the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Notre Dame will start off with them. Notre Dame first round beat Indiana 27-17, though that game was much farther gap away. If you actually watch the game, it was not particularly close. It was 27-3 with a minute 48 left. And yes, those points count, but it was garbage time. Indiana was not coming back, so not close. Notre Dame physically dominated Indiana. Then you look at the game against Georgia. Notre Dame did the exact same thing. They physically dominated an SEC champion in Georgia. Notre Dame is physical in the trenches, even with a massive offensive line that Georgia had. Notre Dame, without Riley Mills, who's one of the best defensive tackles in the entire country, and possibly Notre Dame's best defensive tackle, though I think a lot of people would probably say Howard Cross, and I would agree. I think it is Howard Cross, but it is a very close race here between these two. Then on the Notre Dame secondary has looked decent since the injury to Benjamin Morrison in the Stanford game. But the problem is that you got Christian Gray, you got Leonard Moore. After that, there are some question marks. We'll see what happens with cornerback depth going into this game. Then you have a very interesting matchup when it comes to Penn State. You had a crushing victory in round one with SMU. SMU never stood a chance in that game. But to be fair to SMU, it was Kevin Williams just kept throwing that ball away over and over and over and over and over and over again. Or I'm sorry, Kevin Jennings kept throwing it over. Turnovers, pick sixes. Like SMU just shot themselves in the foot repeatedly. And Notre Dame, on the other hand, has the best turnover margin in the country, and it's not very close. Notre Dame is not going to be turning over the ball like that. And if they do, that's going to be a big difference. So then in the next game, Penn State played Boise State. This game, on the other hand, was a really, I would say, I don't know if close is the right word, but it was a relatively close game. Penn State finished it out, closed the door, the hammer, 31-14 by the end of it. But Boise State was one touchdown away from pulling within 3 points. With a touchdown, they could have brought it to 24-21. And that could have been anybody's ball game, but you had the turnover. Boise State gave the game away, and Penn State finished the job. They did exactly what they needed to, same as Notre Dame against Georgia. So now we go into the three keys of the game for each team. Starting off with the Nittany Lions. Nittany Lions, one, you got to limit your turnovers. You got to be able to limit your turnovers. You cannot give Notre Dame turnover advantage like Georgia had there. You got to limit the turnovers. Number two, you got to win in the trenches. Like, you can't. If you're going to be able to win, you got to slow Notre Dame's rushing attack down. You got to make Riley Leonard win the game with his arm. And then if you're Penn State, the final thing when you're looking at this game is you got to get your running backs going. Katron Allen and Nicholas Singleton, both of those running backs are fantastic running backs. Two of the best running back cores in the entire country, possibly the top two, though I think Ohio State would have something to say about that with Quinshon Judkins and Travion Henderson. But some of the best running back rooms in the entire country here. Notre Dame has same with Jeremiah Love, Jadarian Price, as well as Riley Leonard. I know Riley Leonard isn't a running back, but obviously by his stat line with 88 rush yards against Georgia, being probably the most effective rusher he was the most effective rusher in that game. Notre Dame definitely has a triple threat, which changes it up a little bit, but we'll see. So Penn State, you got to be able to limit the turnovers. You got to control the trenches, and you got to be able to get your running backs going. On the other hand, with Notre Dame, it's very similar things. You got to dominate in the trenches. You got to get pressure on Drew Allard. You got to get pressure on Drew Allard. You got to dominate the trenches. I'm kind of combining those into one because if you're winning the trenches, you're pressuring Drew Allard. Number two, you got to stop the run game and make Drew Allard pass. Same as Riley Leonard. You got to make Drew Allard prove it. You got to make Drew Allard prove it. One of the ways to do that is by collapsing, stopping the run the same way that you did with Georgia. And I trust Notre Dame a lot with that going into this game. Georgia had 2.6 yards a carry, 62 total rush yards on the day, 26 carries on the afternoon as well. This is a Notre Dame team, 4 sacks on the day, and the 4th sack came when Notre Dame's defensive line had no starters in it from the preseason. Notre Dame has been affected a lot by injuries throughout this season, but Al Golden has just wiped it off his back and nothing. No issue whatsoever. Then finally, for Notre Dame, the biggest key to the game, in my opinion, you got to have your special teams win it. You got to have your special teams win. Not just be okay, don't make mistakes, but a kick return touchdown, a punt block, a magnificent job done by Mitch Jeter. Mitch Jeter has really turned it around, struggled throughout the season. Do not look at the stats of Notre Dame's kickers throughout the season. It does not matter because, well, we're looking at 2 entirely different kickers. Mitch Jeter had multiple 60-yard kicks where he just is not going to make it. They got blocked, and it was just not going to work. And then also you had the groin injury. You had all sorts of issues, but Mitch Jeter, I think, is now 5 for 6 on field goal attempts in the past 2 games in the playoffs. He's fine. All those were under 50, but as long as you keep the field goals under 50, Notre Dame, I think you're in good territory with Mitch Jeter. So looking at those games, just went through the keys, and now it comes down to my pick. I think Notre Dame and Penn State both have a good shot at this game. Notre Dame is a 1.5-point favorite currently, according to the betting odds. I think that stays about where it's at. It could possibly swing in Penn State's favor, but I think it's more likely will end at 2.5 for Notre Dame in the betting category. And I think Penn State has a good team. Abdul Carter, and I just said it, Tatron Allen and Nicholas Singleton have fantastic players. I haven't even mentioned Tyler Warren. And the reason why I haven't is because I think Tyler Warren is going to meet Adon Schuler. Adon Schuler meet Tyler Warren to meet Don Schuler. And I don't think that matchup is going to go as well as Penn State fans would like. Tyler Warren will get his own. He is a fantastic football player and will get his own. But will he dominate this game? Will he be able to run away with it? No, I don't think so. I think he is good. I think he is great at his position. He's possibly the best tight end in the country, if not the best tight end. But I don't think that he is going to dominate this game in the same way that one Penn State fan might have. And at the end of the day, I think Notre Dame is better in the trenches. I said this beforehand, and I'm probably going to anger a lot of Penn State fans that are watching this. If Notre Dame can beat Georgia, they can beat the lesser version of Georgia and Penn State. Penn State, in my opinion, is just a lesser version of Georgia. Because James Franklin's got to prove he can win a big game. Marcus Freeman just did against Georgia. And don't get me wrong, at the same time, that doesn't mean that James Franklin can win a big game. But he's got to prove it to me. He's got to prove it to me because Marcus Freeman, he's on fire. He is on absolute fire. I believe it's now 8 straight wins against top 25 teams. 8 straight wins. 8. That run includes Clemson, who is number 4, number 2 Georgia, number 19 Navy, number 24 Navy, number 19 Army, number 10 Indiana. Notre Dame is on a streak when it comes to ranked teams. And James Franklin, on the other hand, yes, you beat Boise State. Yes, you beat SMU. But everybody knew coming into the playoffs, Penn State had the easiest path to the national championships and definitely the easiest path to the semifinals. just because who they played. They played SMU and Boise State. We all know how that happens. But at the same time, I'm not 100% sure about this Indiana team. I think it will be close, but my final score prediction will be 27 Notre Dame, 13 Penn State. I think Notre Dame wins this game, and I think they win it by a couple of touchdowns. This game could be closer. You may want to tack on an extra one for Indiana, or for Penn State, but I do not think that this game ends very differently from how the Indiana game ended. Make sure the 2 videos down below, hit the subscribe button up here as well. Like the video down below. It helps the channel grow, and as always, have a great rest of your day.